キラ様ってすごいよね。
キラは闇の救世主だよ。
これは大量殺人事件だ。
キラは人殺しよ。
デスノートがあれば犯罪のない理想の。
Mangas made into films, just how appealing are they?
未来は僕の手に委ねられたんだ。
驚いたな。まさかとは思ったが、キラ、お前は直接手を下さずに人を殺せるのか。
迷宮入り事件を解決してきた謎の名探偵とでも言いますか。
彼はおそらくキラです。
我々がやってるのはゲームじゃない、捜査だ。
ライトがキラなわけないでしょ。
お前は本当にキラなのか。
キラがどうやって人を殺すかが分かるだって。
僕こそ正義だ。
最後は必ず勝ちます。
面白かった。すごい予想が裏切られちゃって、キラを崇拝するので絶対続編見ます。見ないと何も言えないよ。もう待ちきれない。
In Singapore, Death Note 2, The Last Name, was the top-grossing Japanese film of all time. Death Note, a series of 2 live-action Japanese films released in 2006, is based on the Death Note manga and anime series by Tsugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata.
Now, 私が死ねば真っ先にライト君が疑われますから。
君が死んだら僕がキラか。
私今誰でも殺せるんだ。
L Change the World is a spin-off of the popular Death Note films. It's directed by Hideo Nakata and was released in February 2008. Another manga-based film that appealed to many Asian countries was Boys Over Flowers. The manga was adapted into popular Taiwanese drama serial Meteor Garden, boosting the popularity of boy band F4, who were the 4 male leads.
俺はお前と一緒に人生を歩いていくことに何の迷いもねえけどな。
道明寺の夢って何？
20th Century Boys is the latest manga-turned-movie hitting our shores. A new doomsday trilogy from Japan, it stayed true to the original manga story and raked in more than 5 billion yen at the box office in Japan.
悪の組織の世界征服計画だ。俺らの同級生の誰かが教祖じゃないかって言われ。サンフランシスコで全身血流して人が死んだんだ。
So how successful are manga-based films? What is appealing about them to Singaporean audience?
どう戦うんだよ。わからない。でも他に誰が戦うんだ。
Hello, hello! I'm Christina and
I'm Mei Choon and welcome to Razor Pop. Today we have a guest with us here, Fong Wei from the live section of Chinese paper Lianhe Zaobao, and he's going to talk to us about the appeal of manga-based films.
welcome, Fong Wei, into our living
Thank
room.
you. Thank you for having me. It's very hot here.
Yeah, it is because the lights are very, very bright.
Yeah.
I didn't know we have a TV station right in the middle of the news center.
Yes.
No, you know, isn't it
No
comfortable
secret.
and cozy?
And we even have like a real window if I can look right into
Exactly, that's a condominium. You didn't know that?
Okay, coming back to the topic.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Fong Wei? How did your job and manga-based films come together?
I guess for about 8 years I have been writing a lot about manga and animation. Every Wednesday we have a dedicated page for manga and animation in Lianhe Zaobao, Fukan. I think for the longest time I think there was like a pioneer, and we we have make sure we kept it over the years. Of course, other papers have gone on and talk a lot about animation, but I think more from the Western point of view, because I think a lot of people still read manga in the Chinese translated version. So that's why we make sure we write a lot about that. And I think a lot of kids actually are very. I think I realize there are more girls reading manga in Singapore than guys. Yeah.
What kind of manga?
Besides shoujo, I think the girls also the taste is actually very varied. They read a lot of genre, whereas guys tend to like stuff like Naruto, Death Note. Yeah, like very like guy stuff, like you know, shonen stuff. I think girls, besides reading shoujo stuff, it translates to other things as like horror.
Mostly romance, right?
Romance, and other stuff as well, actually. Yeah.
So, what do you think is the appeal of manga-based films like what we have seen just now, 20th Century Boys, Death Note? Yeah, those are examples, lah. Is there any manga-based films that that you've seen that really appealed to you, and made a deep impression on you?
Well, I personally think Nana is a very good adaptation. I think mostly because they pick a really. I think when it comes to adaptation, the likeness of the character is very important. So they pick Mika Nakashima, who really kind of embodied the whole punk spirit of Nana, the character. Nana is like this girl who sings in a punk band, dressed in like really. She's supposed to be poor, but she has all this Vivienne Westwood, like really expensive stuff. You don't know where she get it. But anyway, she's always decked out, in a Vivienne Westwood, get
very fashionably.
Exactly. I guess like those would cost maybe like tens of thousands of dollars. And she's like this surviving singer. She could afford it. So Mika really embodies that whole persona and the spirit. So I think that was very successful. And unfortunately, the sequel didn't do very well. I think there's some internal rife, which lead to changing of cast. Mika was like, was retained.
She stayed,
But the rest of the cast that made it very successful in the first show, it didn't make it. So that's why it sort of bombed a little.
Yeah, that's true.
And the recent one that we really know more about is Death Note. Death Note was in Singapore. I think a lot of people liked it because you don't really have to read the manga to really get into it. I personally think, because I think for somebody who followed the manga a lot, I was somewhat disappointed when I watched the movie because I felt like I think it didn't capture the whole twist of the story very well. Like in the manga, it's like like chapter after chapter of twists. Like every chapter, you're like, God, something's happening. Like L is going to like finally like win Laito. Like is he gonna catch up? Like there's this twist, but it didn't happen in the movie, and I guess it didn't help that the two characters are really quite good looking in the manga.
Yeah, they are very good looking.
But the two guys when they chose to play it were kind of like dicky kind of it's not very. So I guess it didn't.
So you think it's the wrong choice of actors, lah?
Yeah, but before I came out, I was just thinking like what would be like a good manga to adapt, right? I don't think we have seen Sailor Moon yet. I think Sailor Moon.
I know Sailor Moon. I know. Oh, that's all about me.
I think Sailor Moon was adapted for TV series in Japan. But I think in manga, to make it successful to me, or as a manga fan, there's like two very important elements. One is you have to pick the character, because most people read the manga first and they start to like relate to the character. They're just like, oh, I really like Nana. I really like what she does. I wonder who's going to play her. When they pick the right person that embody the spirit, boom, it's going to make it. But if they pick somebody who's wrong, people like the manga fan are going to be like, I'm not so sure this is successful. But another one is to pick a manga that is as outrageous as possible, so that you can really camp it out and go all the way out when you readapt it into the movie. I think Sailor Moon would be a good one. It's sort of like them readapting Charlie's Angels. Like like when we were young. Okay, when I was young, and I watched Charlie's Angels in the 80s and 70s, right? And you sort of like. It was somewhat serious, No doubt it's like about girls changing clothes, taking on different personas. It was very fun. But then when you bring it over to, the big screen, that doesn't translate very well. But they camp it up, like with Lucy Liu and Cameron Diaz and Drew Barrymore, and they're totally different women. Suddenly it's more enjoyable with Kung Fu added in. So I think another kind of manga that would do very well on the big screen is those really outrageous ones, because it's anything go. I think they are readapting Dragon Ball. With Dragon Ball Z with Chow Yun-fat and I don't know the guys. They actually use a white actor to play the Sun Wukong
Stephen
character.
Chow.
He produced it.
Yeah, producing
but
it.
It was a white cast that's playing it. But I think that might work also because it's so outrageous.
Yeah, you would look forward to seeing how it would turn out in the end. Yeah. Who do you think would be a good Sailor Moon?
Yeah. I mean, you mean from the west or from the east?
Anywhere.
Good Sailor Moon.
Since you're so into it.
I wouldn't mind seeing the girl who was with Edison Chan. What's her name?
Lianhe Zaobao.
I think no, because she is I think she's pretty much like
very naive anymore.
No,
she's supposed to be naive.
That's the whole point. Like that's the whole point. You think that she's naive, but then you know that deep down she has this other side that would actually give it a more layer of complexity.
Right.
I don't know. I think it would be a good chance for her to also to revive her career. I heard that she's going into Kung Fu right now.
Yeah, she wants to make a comeback.
Ditzy woman, I think maybe like Jessica Simpson. Is that her? The one who mistook chicken from the sea as the MTV
chicken wings?
No, it's Jessica Simpson, right? The very ditzy blonde.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought Jessica Simpson might be
Yeah.
another one. She can play the ditzy one.
Yeah.
So, does this trend actually start in Japan? Because you were telling me that actually a lot of manga-based films, right? They all originated in Japan, and there's this big trend in Japan, but actually not in Singapore. It's very niched, you were saying.
I think I think when you do go to Japan and you travel on the train, you notice that a lot of guys, even from older uncle, salarymen, they have this really thick pulp manga that is put out on a monthly basis. They read it, they flip through it, and then they just leave it aside. So it has a very strong manga reading culture in Japan, in Tokyo. But I think in Singapore, the trend is pretty much with young people. I think a lot of young people rather watch or download stuff from the net. So I think when it's being made into a movie, the acceptance isn't as great as in Japan. Whereas in Japan, there's already a big following in manga. People follow manga, they know those books, So there is it's like a process. So you read the manga, you follow it, you watch the anime, and then when it's out on the big screen, you watch it. So it's more integrated into the pop culture.
Oh, you have very great foresight there, because I actually went to find out whether manga films appeal to Singaporeans. Yeah, I went to Bishan and I asked some people whether they find manga-based films appealing, and they sort of answer the way that you said.
Really?
Let's look at the video.
What do you think of films that are based on Japanese comics? For example, like Death Note. Have you watched Death Note?
Yes.
Yeah, what do you think?
Compared to the anime and manga, the two differences is such that I think sometimes anime, for example, Death Note, I find it's more gory because it's at the end, this T fella, he died in a very weird way, I should say, blood spurting out. It's disgusting. But they put it in comic context. I allow my cousin, who is 7 years old, to read.
So how successful do you think are manga-based films?
If count by 10 points, I'll just say 9 points then. Yeah.
For which film?
Especially Death Note. I kind of like it.
And have you watched films that are based on Japanese comics?
Actually, yeah, like Death Note. Yeah.
What do you think of it?
It's interesting, but then I still prefer the manga.
Why?
Because the movie does not really capture that clearly, because some parts are a bit distorted.
How successful do you think is the adaptation from comics to screen?
I think it's not bad but it's also a new story in a way, so I think it's not bad as an idea. It gets fans interested in the series. I think the comic is better because as in for the storyline wise, I follow the comic more, so I prefer the comic storyline as compared to the film storyline.
I've always preferred comics to movies, but because I like the comics, so I watch the movie just to see how people interpret it visually. Yeah.
And so how do you find Death Note?
I think the acting was quite horrible, but I think people kill me for it. Yeah.
What was so good about the comics then?
It's very intensely paced and it allows you a lot of room for imagination.
And the film, however?
The film, I don't know, somehow you just lose something when it appears on screen.
What Japanese films or Japanese manga-based films have you watched?
Like Liu Xinhua Yuan I did.
Horrible.
No, I didn't like that one quite much, but it started with a case, yes. I watched the Taiwanese version. It wasn't much that I had expected and hoped for, because it was quite, like what my sister had said, it was also quite terrible.
In Singapore, the trend is the Taiwanese shows are the most popular. Then only loyal fans, they will read the comics. And there are also occasional few who read the comics first before they watch the movies or drama series. But they won't be... I don't know, I'm just not interested in this kind of things usually, yeah.
And what about It Started With a Kiss? You said you watch it also, right?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
Actually, I think like mostly of the Japanese films that were different from the mangas. Because in the mangas you may see something that that cannot be acted out. Because it will be quite fake.
Mangas made into films, okay. If they don't change too much of the story, I think it's okay.
So that's why I found out many Singaporeans actually they don't really like manga adapted into screen because they change a lot of the story.
Actually, reading what the last guy was saying, right? I think it's not them not liking. I think a lot of these kids are quite avid manga fan themselves. I think avid manga fan can be quite a bit of a purist. So, and especially some mangas are run by series, you know, they're like maybe 15, 20.
Yeah, very hard to like condense it into a movie that is like 2 hours.
Yeah, I think a lot of them feel like, especially when you have invested so much feelings into that long series, you don't really want to see it, you know, being reduced to just like, I don't know, or simplified. They felt a little insulted maybe. I don't know. But I think manga, but I think Singaporean will see a lot more manga-inspired movie, not from Japan itself. And actually, a lot of Hollywood is adapting manga right now.
Yeah, so well, we hope to see more manga-based films next time in Singapore. So thank you all of you for being with Mei Choon, me, and Fong Wei here today. Thank you for letting us know so much about manga-based films. Thank you very much. Okay, and next up is Rage.